Hi, I'm Clara Rose, and this is Influence Matters, the show where each week I share tips, tricks, resources, hacks, whatever you want to call them, to help savvy influence builders just like you to strategically and intentionally cultivate influence. Because we all know that influence generates more leads for your business, ministry, or cause. So we are here today to make this happen for you. Before we get started, I always like to give recognition where recognition is due, of course, to our show sponsor. A special thank you to Rosedale Publishing. They specialize in business books for professionals and entrepreneurs. And a special shout out to Tampa Bay Multimedia and WeBeam TV for making this show possible today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, we have an exciting show for you today. So glad you could join me. Let's hop right in, shall we? First of all, we always start with our question of the week, unless we have a guest. So this week, Pam said, yes, I agree, influence does matter. I love that she used my words. The issue is figuring out how to influence others without it feeling icky to me. And I would totally agree. Sometimes people can leave us feeling icky when we're trying to accomplish something. So let's talk about how we can influence others without leaving them or ourselves feeling icky. I love the word. Today, let's talk about defining influence first. So what is influence and what is not influence? So I'm not talking about the kind of influence that a star has. So that person hasn't done anything necessarily other than being famous to have the ability to influence us. Now, of course, sometimes we are influenced by those things depending on who we are and who they are. But I'm talking about a different kind of influence. I'm talking about something that's not about manipulation. So sometimes when we see influencers or people trying to influence, we really are seeing them manipulating. They want to change the behavior or the perception of others through indirect, deceptive, or underhanded tactics. Smarminess that leaves us all feeling icky, right? None of us like that. It doesn't necessarily influence us, but sometimes it can affect us. We can get sucked in by their manipulation and end up regretting a purchase or a decision that we made based on their smarminess, unfortunately. Let's talk about what influence really is, the kind of influence that I'm talking about today. Influence is the capacity or power of a person or things to be a compelling force on or to produce effects on the actions, behaviors, opinions, etc. of others. It's really the capacity to affect change. That's the kind of influence that we're talking about. So how we affect change in those around us. So for instance, I might say that I influence other people, a change that I'm trying to make in their world. So I'm trying to help them create a book or a signature speech or whatever to get them greater influence that's going to lead to generating leads for their business, ministry, or cause. So I'm trying to affect change. So my influence is that I have the capacity to affect change in others. That's what we're talking about, not the smarmy manipulation stuff, but just to affect change in a positive way. Okay, let's get started on our savvy tweets for the day. Can't go without our savvy tweets. Influence is the capacity to affect change. Are you an influence builder who is making a difference? You, of course, can find me over on Twitter at Clara Rose Chat. Tweet that out because somebody that you know, somebody who follows you, needs to hear that from you today. Okay. What I really wanted to do today was talk about the 5 influence styles. We are all different, and that's okay. The trick is to recognize the natural tendency or style that we have. Understanding that our own style and that of those around us can be very empowering. I think self-discovery is a huge part of what I teach people that I work with. I think it's important in our own lives as well. As a matter of fact, this morning I was teaching a workshop, and one of the points that I was making is how important it is for us to understand ourselves. And one of the ladies asked a question, and I said, have you ever done a Strength Finders? And she had not done one. I said, you know what? I remember when I did my very first Strengths Finders test, how empowering it was, how enlightening it was to be able to point to something and say, oh, I'm strategic by nature. Well, I'm not crazy. I just like things to be all connected, and I like to be very strategic in how I do everything. It's one of my strengths. Just so happens that we are most content and happiest when we're working in our strengths. So understanding that about myself helps me to better work in a way that leaves me feeling fulfilled. And the same will be true for you. So the 5 styles, we're going to go through them one at a time, and there's no judgment here. This is a judgment-free zone. None of these are good or bad. They just are. So let's go through them one at a time and see if you don't recognize one of them in yourself. Let's start with negotiating. Now, some people are just naturally negotiators. I have a granddaughter who's a natural negotiator. She intends to be an attorney. I think she's going to be an excellent attorney because she's such a great negotiator. Ask yourself these questions. Do you look for compromises and make concessions in order to reach an outcome that satisfies your greater interest? Do you make trade-offs and exchanges in order to meet your larger interests? If necessary, will you delay the discussion until a more opportune time? Now, like I said, no judgment. If you're a negotiator, you're a negotiator. If these resonated with you, if this rings true, it just means that that's your natural style. That's your natural influence style to negotiate. So the way that you naturally try to influence others or to affect change in others, positive change, not smarmy ugliness, but positive change, is through negotiation. It's your natural tendency. There isn't anything wrong with that. Just recognize that while that may be yours, it might not be someone else's natural tendency. All right, that was style number 1. Let's look at the next style. So the next style is bridging. So what is bridging? Well, bridging is exactly what it sounds like. That tendency to connect things with a bridge, sometimes you. Do you attempt to influence outcomes by uniting or connecting with others? Do you rely on reciprocity, engaging superior support, consultation, building coalitions, and using personal relationships to get people to agree with your position? So bridge builders are really important in our world, right? They're the people who will stand in the middle and say, hey, can't we all just get along? Let's come together on this. Let's make a decision together. So their tendency as they influence people is to do it by bringing people together, connecting them. They become the bridge. Okay, let's move on to our next style. Our next style of influence is asserting. This one I can relate to a little bit. Do you rely on your personal confidence, rules, law, and authority to influence others? Do you insist that your ideas are heard and considered even when others disagree? Do you challenge the ideas of others when they don't agree with yours? Do you debate with or pressure others to get them to see your point of view? If you do, your style might be asserting. Now, understand that we don't necessarily just have one style. In fact, I would say we're a blend of different styles, but we probably have one or two that is dominant for us, or maybe one that is dominant for us. Well, I tend to be a little bit assertive only because I'm a confident person. I don't think of myself as a pushy person. I do, however, spend time paying attention to how others are reacting, only because early in my life, as a young entrepreneur, a young woman, I had somebody tell me that I was overpowering, that I tell this story sometimes. She ended up going and seeing a psychologist or psychiatrist or whatever she saw, a counselor, because working with me was too stressful. I stressed her out. I moved too fast. I talked too fast. I was too strategic. I was too organized. Everything about my pace in life, everything about my assertiveness gave her anxiety. And she ended up going to see a counselor, and she came back with, the 8 habits, 7 habits, highly effective people. She had this book and said, I have to read this book because of you. I was, of course, devastated. It broke my heart that somebody saw me as so aggressive and overbearing like that. Because I don't see myself that way. But it was that assertiveness that she didn't have, but I did, which made her uncomfortable. So it's really empowering to know how you're affecting other people. Now, that's been years, but it created a habit, a lifelong habit, since that time of paying attention to how I affect others around me. Well, I'm outgoing and energetic and fun, and can be a little assertive. When people are quieter or a little more reserved, maybe kicked back a little bit, I notice it. I take notice because I don't want to trample on their style, their assertiveness, or their lack thereof. And I certainly don't want to railroad or run over top of them. So just be aware that it's okay to be who you are, or a blend of the styles that you are. Just be paying attention to how you're affecting others around you. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So the next style is rationalizing. So do you use logic, facts, and reasoning to present your ideas? Do you leverage your facts, logic, expertise, and experience to persuade others? There isn't anything wrong with being analytical and rationalizing things. I think the thing to be careful there is that you don't get caught up in, if that's you, don't get caught up in your facts and your logic and rationalizing, and not understand that other people don't necessarily look at things the same way. If that's how you influence others, then you're going to tend to influence those who have a piece of that in them. They can relate a little bit to that rationalizing. They want to know the statistics and the facts and the figures and those things. I personally tend to glaze over a little bit if somebody gets to rambling on about statistics. Every once in a while, a really good one will catch my attention. I'm like, oh, that's a good one. I should write that down. I won't remember it if I don't, but that was good. That was impactful. But in general, I don't tend to be that person. So just be aware if that's you, that not everyone around you is going to stay connected with you, and therefore, you're not going to be able to influence them as readily using that particular style. Pay attention to their faces. Pay attention to their body language. Remember that depending on who you listen to, 70 to 80% of communication is nonverbal. So our words that we say, the words that we use, it's just a really small percentage of communication. So facial expression, body language, posture, the tone of our voice, inflection, there's so much that goes into communication. When you remove everything but words, that's when things can get scary. Things can get hairy. Communication can go awry when you just have words. Consider the last time somebody texted you or emailed you and you went, what? What are they saying to me? Maybe you took offense, or maybe you took it totally wrong, and later you discovered, oh, that's not at all what they meant. That's because you removed a huge component of effective communication. So all that to say, pay attention. If you're trying to influence others, especially if it's rationalizing, make sure that your audience is connecting with you and understanding and that what you're trying to say to them if you want to truly influence them. Okay, let's move on. And inspiring. So this is a lovely one. Do you encourage others toward your position by communicating a sense of shared mission and exciting possibility? Do you use inspirational appeals, stories, and metaphors to encourage a shared sense of purpose? Now, we all love the inspiring ones, right? All the motivational speakers, all of those people, those are inspiring us. They are using inspiring things to connect with us. They're using stories and metaphors, and they're trying to aspire us towards something. I think that we're all naturally drawn to that, but not everybody has a natural tendency or ability in that. You know who they are. If you look around you when you're networking, look around you in your sphere of influence, you know who the inspiring people are. You want to hear what they have to say. You want to listen to them. You want to spend time with them, right? So pay attention to those people. Learn from the skills that they're using. I'm not here today to say of these 5 that if you don't have one of them, that you're just out of luck, because these are all skills that you can learn. What I'm saying is these are tendencies, your natural style, your natural tendency, but we can all learn to behave differently, can't we? We can learn different skill sets. Maybe we could learn to, not maybe, what we can learn to use stories and metaphors and inspirational appeals and rallying people together for a shared sense of purpose or a shared excitement, if you will. You always see those people in the room. I call them the woo-woo girls or the woo-woo people. Right? They're so excited about everything. They're so excited about life. They're the ones cheering and, leading the chant and, making you stand up and stretch at your networking meeting. And those are the people, their natural tendency is to inspire you. And we all love the inspirers, right? If you found one of them that you connected with and said, like, mine is the assertive, like, yeah, I can be that, but it doesn't feel good, it doesn't set well with you, remind yourself that you are a combination of, and you're not totally that one style, and then put together a plan to work on that. Say, okay, I'm trying to influence people or affect change for this particular thing to happen. I want to generate leads for my business, ministry, or cause. And I want to do it with my influence. So I'm not loving this piece about me. How can I change that? How can I intentionally and strategically make changes in how I communicate, the way that I communicate, the things that I say, how I come across to others, and how much I'm connecting with my audience? Make changes to those to get the results that you want. You might say, now, Clara, that sounds manipulative, but I promise I'm not talking about manipulation. Remember when we talked about manipulation, that was using deceitful or, ugly ways of trying to influence people. And that's not what we're doing. We're talking about through assertion or through inspiration or one of the 5 strategies to influence change in others. Okay, I don't want to beat you over the head with it, but I just wanted you to understand a little bit about what influence means, mainly because every week I'm here talking about how important influence is. In fact, the show is called Influence Matters, right? So influence does matter. It's important for us to try to influence others for our lead generation in a positive way that has integrity. Another thing I spoke about this morning at the workshop was the importance of integrity in our businesses. In a world where sometimes there isn't a lot of integrity. I promise you that your customers, your clients, your followers, whatever you'd like to call them, will pay attention. They will notice integrity. They will also notice if you do not have integrity. So you need to absolutely be aware of that as well. Okay, let's move on. 5 easy steps to cultivating influence. Empower others to succeed. Encourage them to dream. Respect their opinions. Be a leader who is worth following. Show sympathy and compassion. Connect emotionally and authentically. Be flexible. Be assertive but not aggressive. And listen to hear. Pay attention to what people are actually saying. Rather than listening to respond, listen to actually hear what somebody's trying to communicate to you. Show sympathy and concern. That's a big one in this day and age. Right now, as a nation, as a world, I guess, we're in the middle of something that isn't all that fun. Right? The lockdown and the COVID and all those pieces. There are a lot of people struggling with all of that and the outcomes from that, maybe the loss of a job, or, my daughter is homeschooling children, right, and works full time. So those kinds of extra stressors, I'd just like to say, please be compassionate and kind to others around you. If you see somebody in a store who's not wearing a mask, there could be a reason they're not wearing a mask. It could be that they're not capable of wearing a mask for whatever reason. I have a grandson who has asthma. He can't wear a mask. It affects his breathing too much. So in this time where things are just a little bit different and we're all struggling just a little bit with something, please be kind. Please be compassionate. Please be caring. Remember that that other person is a human being. Connect with them as a human being on a human level. And in our businesses, be the type of leader that other people actually want to follow. Equip those around you for success. Lead them strategically and intentionally in a way that they can be successful as well. All right. We didn't have very many of these today, but I have another savvy tweet for you. Success is a matter of influence, but influence is not accidental. It is strategic and intentional. And if you follow me at all or have even seen the show very many times, you have heard me say it before. Success is a matter of influence. That is what we are here talking about every Friday. Building influence, cultivating, creating influence in a strategic and intentional way so that we can get more leads for our business, ministry, or cause. Okay, I hope that you found that helpful today. I do want to just touch on something before we go. We are almost out of time, but I want to touch on one thing really quickly. I think last week or the week before I shared it with you. I have a checklist for startup businesses. This is the newbie startup or somebody who's in a position where they are restarting their business for whatever reason. This is our 8 ways to mind your own business startup checklist. So if you're interested in getting yourself a copy, you can go to inspiredbusinessmatters.com. And it is an opt-in, so it's a double opt-in actually, and you're going to get on my email list, but I'm going to give you this free download that actually comes out of the back of my new book that just published in July, 8 Ways to Mind Your Own Business. This is the checklist from that book. So it's an easy way to, free, get your hands on that list and work through the different pieces of either launching or perhaps even relaunching your business. Of course, if you have questions, you can email me at hello@clararose.com. I'm happy to shoot back an email. I'm even happy to hop on a call with you, a Zoom call, and talk about whatever it is you'd like to talk about in helping to build your influence or even launch your new business. So, I hope you found that super helpful today. I want to encourage you to get my new book. I do have a number of books out there, but this one's especially fun for me, especially exciting for me. I co-wrote with Debbie Clement Large, who is in the UK, and this book goes through 8 different steps to launching your business, but it in two different ways. One is the nuts and bolts, and of course that's my wheelhouse, and I wrote those chapters. And then each of those chapters has a corresponding chapter that Debbie wrote. She is a mindset coach, and she can help you with getting your head wrapped around in the right direction, help you understand things that I didn't even know when we began to write this book together, limiting beliefs, things that you don't even know that you believe that are changing and affecting how you behave. So each one of my chapters has a corresponding chapter on mindset. So I talk about passion matters. She's going to talk about inspired passion. If I talk about creation matters, she's going to talk about inspired creation. So really great stuff all on the checklist. And the reason that I'm saying this to you today is we're getting ready to take the checklist down. It was a free gift that we were giving away to help celebrate the launch of our new book, and it's now been officially 30 days. And so one more week and we're going to pull that free checklist down, and you won't be able to get it again. But you'll still be able to, of course, buy the book. And we're happy to have you hop on over to Amazon and look for 8 ways to mind your own business. Or, of course, you can go to the page that I just told you, inspiredbusinessmatters.com. When you opt in there, on the thank you page, it's going to take you to a link where you can click on over to Amazon. It takes you right to the page, so you don't have to go hunting for it, of course. Okay. There it is. I feel like I've said a mouthful. I hope you found it helpful today. I hope that you spend some time thinking about your own style of influence, how you affect others around you. Of course, I think it is huge and makes a difference that you are making a difference in the world around you. And of course, we're all trying to generate more leads, right, for our business, ministry, or cause. So, once again, Clara Rose reminding you to write, speak, and lead, because you know, and I know, that influence matters. I will see you next Friday, same time and same place on WeBeam TV. Thank you so much for being a part of my Friday every week. All right, guys, have a great weekend. I'll see you next week.